My name is Mary. I'm 27 years old. After graduating from a nursing school, I currently work in a surgical ward. Life is busy. I started dating Kent, who is also 27, through an introduction by a friend who graduated from the same vocational school in our field. Kent works as a doctor at a cosmetic clinic. Despite our busy schedules, we continued to date and got engaged after 2 years. That might sound like everything is going smoothly, but there was an incident that painfully reminded me that life doesn't always go as planned. It happened when Kent and I visited his parents' house for the first time before we were married. My family's been doctors for generations. He mentioned that. Of course, their house was also big. Even though it's a predetermined path to inherit the family profession, becoming a doctor isn't something you can just decide to do. Generation after generation, which means that generations have cleared the hurdle of graduating from medical school. Impressive. And to maintain that, their family must be incredibly dedicated to education. I could tell by the sparkling clean entrance and the vase on the shoe cabinet, which was adorned with beautifully maintained Casablanca lilies. When we were shown into the living room, we were served coffee and sweets. I was told that the dishes, the coffee, and the sweets were all luxury brand products. The only thing I recognized was the sweets. I had never even heard of many of them. So, Mary, you work as a nurse at a general hospital, don't you? Kent's mother inquired. She is very much a doctor's wife. Yes, I do. I answered nervously. Are you a registered nurse, by any chance? Well, actually, I'm a practical nurse. There are registered nurses and practical nurses. I was surprised to be asked, but I guess that might be something a doctor's family would be curious about. However, it seemed to be an important factor in Kent's family. That's problematic, Kent's mother said. Kent's father also chimed in, saying, Indeed, that's troublesome. Is there a problem with that? I cautiously inquired. Practical nurses, unlike registered nurses, can't perform medical procedures without a doctor's orders. But since I don't work at Kent's family's clinic, it didn't seem like it was about needing an extra hand. Then, his parents started saying something quite peculiar. Being a practical nurse, your income potential is capped, isn't it? That would mean you'd have to lower your standard of living. And genetically, whether you can bear children who will maintain this family's lineage. Well, think it over. We received this gentle yet dismissive rejection typical of upper-class families and left Kent's house. We got more opposition than we thought. I said with a raised frown as we left Kent's house and walked down the road to the train station. But at that moment, I thought we could still make it work after 2 years together. After all, things often don't go exactly as planned in life. Right. But they didn't outright oppose us. And he said so, too. Encouraged by his words, I hoped that they would take the time to accept me. However, I was about to learn just how naively optimistic that was. 2 weeks later, Kent called me. What's up? Arriving at the cafe where he called me, I initially thought it was just our usual meet-up. But there was someone else there. That person was... Oh, hi, Emily. It was my senior colleague. Why was Emily here? The story went like this. After our visit, it seems Kent's father had said the following. It's difficult to lower our standard of living at this point. Especially when gathering with fellow doctors. Having a practical nurse in the family might look less cultured. It's harsh, but in the medical field, they're considered bottom tier. This creates a disparity. In the end, it would make both Mary and you unhappy. He added. Mary works at California General Hospital, right? I know a doctor there. He will introduce you to another woman you are going to marry. And the other woman introduced was my senior, Emily. Emily, 32, older than both Kent and me. Indeed graduated from a well-known university with a degree in School of Nursing, and was smoothly progressing through a management track as a registered nurse. So, I thought about it. Like my dad said, practical nurses can't become managers, and financially, it would lead to poverty, right? And you probably wouldn't fit into an elite household either. That would make us both unhappy. Dad introduced Emily to me, but honestly, You can't really compete with her in terms of intelligence, income, or even looks, right? He must have prepared his speech, but I was blindsided and couldn't keep up. Unhappy, being a practical nurse means being unhappy. The words practical nurse and unhappy swirled in my mind. Then I looked at Emily. Emily was beautiful. Tall and well-proportioned. She gave a bewitching smile. Sorry, I took him from you. All I could do was hang my head. No, I wasn't good enough. Why? Why did it have to end like this? We had been dating for 2 years. Without a single fight. I learned to cook, and I loved him so much. Tears fell onto my skirt. Kent said this. So, we're all in agreement then. Let's continue to get along. The fact that you, with your bottom-tier line job, couldn't go on to marry me. He wrapped it all up well. We're engaged. Look at my Harry Winston's ring. Wow, that's so nice. Emily flaunted the ring. Her peers, nurses of the same age, squealed in delight. I walked past them in silence. That ring. Kent had chosen it. I felt nothing but emptiness. I had just returned my engagement ring. Though it wasn't the same brand, just days after returning mine, my direct senior was flaunting hers. There was nothing more heartbreaking. But, who would flaunt it like that? Emily's too much. The lack of consideration and restraint towards you makes me question her as a person. My colleague Sophie, who knew the situation, commented with a grimace. She's pretty, but she treats practical nurses like errand runners and always tries to one-up me by bragging about her promising future. I really can't stand her. To me, you're 100 times prettier. Just think of him as a guy with poor taste. Sophie comforted me. Indeed, Emily did seem to look down on practical nurses and had a bad habit of acting superior to her juniors, who didn't like her much. I usually kept my distance from her. But today, of all days, Emily made a point of coming over to me. And then she said, "Our wedding is set for June. I'm inviting all the nurses from the department, so despite everything, Mary, I hope you'll attend, too." I was speechless. I think anyone in my position would have reacted the same way. Don't worry, I won't mention in the ceremony's introductions that the groom dumped you for me. Emily declared loudly. By that point, it would be obvious to everyone that Kent had moved on from me to Emily. But I'm inviting all the nurses from the department. Please be there. She insisted. I was just standing there, stunned. Sophie was angry beside me. But even her voice seemed distant, fading away. Is there such a thing as this kind of harassment? Sophie exclaimed in outrage, hitting a nearby pillar. Yeah, but what can we do? Right, what can we do? Kent chose Emily over me. That's all there was to it. But accepting that reality, my emotions just couldn't keep up. From now on, as long as I was here, I'd have to hear about Kent every day, and eventually, Emily would become the head nurse. I would be under her thumb. There's nothing more miserable than that. So, I threw myself into job hunting during my work breaks. It was less about wanting a new job and more about desperately wanting to cut ties with the past. In hindsight, I think it was just an escape from reality. Fortunately, there's a nursing shortage everywhere these days, so I quickly found a new job. I decided to resign before the wedding. So, I ended up not attending the wedding after all. But the rumors still spread throughout the ward. And of course, the patients heard them too. You're leaving. A newly admitted child asked me with a sad look. You encouraged me so much when I was admitted with a serious injury. A middle school girl, who had been admitted with severe injuries from a traffic accident, said this as she sadly held my hand. But we'll see each other again. If you live with hope. Because this world is connected. I reassured her as I held her hand back. Despite saying that, I was definitely concerned about her. But since she was admitted after I had submitted my resignation, I couldn't postpone leaving. Luckily, Sophie had organized a farewell party for me with close friends from the department. So I asked her to take care of the girls' emotional needs during that time. Leave it to me. I'll take good care of her. Sophie assured me. And she said, "Don't worry about her, just leave it to us. Go ahead and move on to the next stage, and forget about your ex and that thieving cat." Years later, the close friends from that farewell party decided to have a reunion. It was like a reunion, and we met regularly, but that time was a bit special. Even after being kicked out of the bar at last call, we continued talking outside, chatting away until after midnight. That's when I was asked to do something. I had deleted Kent's contact from my phone, but one of the friends had his number and arranged for us to meet through her. That was what I was asked to do. "It's been a while," he said with a condescending smile. Not even a hint of embarrassment. "So, what are you up to these days?" At the cafe where we met, Kent ordered a coffee. And then he dumped a ridiculous amount of sugar into it. I knew it. But remembering such things irritated me a bit. And to be told by the man drinking that sickly sweet coffee. Still in a bottom-tier job? Well, I guess there's a cap for practical nurses. I downed my tea without any sugar or milk. Even after all these years, it irked me that he still used terms like bottom tier. Is there really a bottom or top tier to jobs? I thought about this when we broke up, but people like him look down on others to relieve their stress. Such folks will always belittle those they consider beneath them. Just watch, I'll crush you. I'll give it all back to you. After downing the tea and looking at the empty cup, I felt a switch flip inside me. I'm going to shake up and turn over your value system today. I slammed the empty cup down with a clatter, intentionally making noise. Then I looked straight into Kent's face and let it out. What? What are you talking about? My salary is now over $300,000. Wah. Kent froze, still wearing the mocking smile he had when he belittled me. I began to tell him about the path I took after we broke up. Just before I left the California General Hospital, a girl who had suffered facial injuries from an accident was admitted. She had broken bones too. Meeting her changed my life, I shared. What? I don't understand. It felt like a flurry of question marks were floating above Kent's head. I continued anyway. She would cry every day and night about her scars. She was underage, and her parents seemed opposed to cosmetic surgery. She had a crush. But in an instant, everything turned dark for her. It's tough, especially for a teenage girl. I've never felt more fulfilled as a nurse. Having studied anatomy as part of my nursing education really came in handy. I taught her how to apply foundation. I explained how green concealer can counteract redness and how to use shadows and highlights to bring out the bone structure beautifully. It was all about rehabilitation makeup. And she became so much brighter. It's amazing how makeup can transform someone like that. I was so happy to see her change. Coincidentally, my next job was in emergency nursing. There, I met many people who had been suddenly thrown into similar situations due to accidents. I taught them how to cover up the scars on their faces and arms. And then, especially women and mothers were so grateful, and I found a real sense of purpose in that. While working as a nurse, I also studied makeup. After we called off our engagement and I found myself single with some savings, I decided to open a studio for rehabilitation makeup. I don't heal wounds, but I offer a way to live with them every day. Hey, wait, so you're saying you've become a rival to me in cosmetic procedures? Rival? I scoffed. Rivalry would imply you have actual skills in cosmetic surgery and a thriving business, right? Well, Kent grimaced. Unfortunately, you can't really be considered a rival, not with your clinic, I said. I then tapped on my phone to show him. It was a screen of Google reviews. Kent's cosmetic surgery clinic was criticized for focusing on flaws, overcharging, and subpar surgeries. In contrast, my studio was flooded with positive feedback. I feel more positive, my scar doesn't bother me anymore. I think these results are going to hit you like a body blow, I remarked. Seeing Kent speechless, I continued with a rush of words. I've heard from clients who came to me after visiting you. You propose expensive treatments to people who just want a simple procedure and then suggest additional surgeries for flaws they weren't even concerned about, like a low nose, thin lips, or wrinkles, and inflate the cost. But, it's their choice to undergo surgery or not, Kent stuttered. Exactly, it's their choice. And many choose not to go through with your procedures and end up coming to my makeup studio instead, where I offer not just rehabilitation makeup but also general beauty and anti-aging makeup now. This review was particularly telling. I pointed out one of the critical reviews. One patient ended up with an uneven buttocks. She's currently visiting my studio. Really? Kent's face turned pale. She is suing us now, isn't she? He blurted it out before I even had to say anything. That saved me the hassle of explaining, which was quite convenient. Yes, she is. But you know, I've expanded my services. Not just makeup, but I've also integrated a gym, focusing on a holistic approach to beauty. She came to us quite down, but as she worked out and built muscle, her body line improved. And her mental state has become much more positive through small successes, I explained. So, with you being sued and lacking skills, how could you possibly be a rival to us? You should really get over yourself. With your bottom-tier skills. I emphasized the word bottom tier quite deliberately. Bottom tier. You said it, didn't you? Instead of saying, I say. That's bottom tier skill, comment? That came from a client at the gym, directed at you. Kent just bit his lip and fell silent. Wonder how it feels to be hit with the word bottom tier. I straightened my back, deliberately looking down on him. Then, my phone rang. It's done, came the message from Sophie. After listening to her and hanging up, I turned to Kent with a blank expression and said, there's another piece of news today. It seems the results are in. What results? Kent asked back, visibly flustered. It was quite an undignified sight. You really don't know, do you? I laughed. Hasn't your wife told you anything? What about my wife? That's about your wife's rant. Practical nurses should pick up trash, they are slaves. That's problematic, isn't it? It is definitely a violation of labor laws. What? She could be dismissed on disciplinary grounds, so you can look forward to that. I placed the money for my drink on the table and smiled at Kent, who was sweating profusely. The difference in earnings between you and me at the time we were dating has probably reversed, and the gap has even widened. In the nursing world, rumors spread fast. Your wife probably won't be able to find another job easily. Especially after messing up at a big hospital like the California General Hospital. Kent seemed unable to believe it. Such a thing, no way. He muttered to himself, dripping with cold sweat. Today, I came to see you as part of a plan devised by all the practical nurses who had been looked down upon by your wife, I explained. Emily, who boasted about marrying an elite doctor because she was a registered nurse. I wanted to see the look on the face of the husband who provided the foundation for her arrogance when he hears about today's proceedings. Do you think it's insidious? But that's exactly what we, who have been looked down upon by both of you, naturally wanted to do. No. You thought you were the privileged class, loved by money? The husband was overtaken by the bottom tier he laughed at. And the wife was crushed by the bottom tier she mocked. How does it feel now? As I was leaving, I threw in one last comment. Also, you might not have noticed inside your building, but just 20 meters from your cosmetic surgery clinic, my studio stands. I've also set up a gym nearby, so when your clinic goes under, I'll buy the land. It's bound to happen soon, I said. Kent's eyes rolled back in shock. As I predicted, Kent's cosmetic clinic soon went under. The reviews and the stories from clients who considered his clinic but then chose us made it somewhat predictable. I opened a yoga studio on the clinic's former site. I heard Emily was fired over the labor dispute. While I was inspecting the site for the yoga studio's design, I encountered Kent and Emily. Perhaps they were there to sigh over the site's fate. Upon spotting me, Kent approached and said, "Hi, long time no see. Congrats on expanding with a yoga studio." "There's no need for congratulations if you don't mean it," I replied coldly. "Hey, you're expanding your business, right? How about adding a cosmetic clinic too? Then I could." He started to suggest. "I'm not interested in hiring incompetent doctors," I stated firmly. "Well, then at least let me." Emily interjected. I don't need staff who lack teamwork and are prone to looking down on others. I flatly refused. I'm sorry, but I can't have a constructive conversation in the presence of the previous owners. I told the real estate agent who accompanied me for the inspection, and they kindly escorted the two out. This is how I successfully established a yoga studio near my makeup studio. A few years later, I was attending a wedding. Though I say this, it wasn't my wedding. It was the wedding of the girl who had received stitches on her face just before I left the California General Hospital. Thank you so much. Mary helped me stay positive. He told me that my facial scars were no big deal, that he only noticed when I told him about them. And he even said that he loved me with the scars on my face without makeup. She read the letter. Congratulations. Truly, congratulations. I shed tears. Life is not for those who look down on others negatively, but for those who look up and live positively. I will continue to work to support those who want to look up and move forward. Hey, are you feeling alright? Whatever, I'm just screw around here. Ever since then, I've been unable to react at all when I see Mark. I'm home. Huh? Where's dinner? It seems like the shadow is speaking to me. I can't understand what it's saying. Hey, kids, please say something to your mom. No way. You know what, we don't need dad in this house. My name is Sarah. I'm a 40-year-old mother of two. My husband, Mark, is 2 years older than me. We got married when I was 25. We were colleagues at the same company. We started dating about a year after I joined the company. We got married when I got pregnant, and at Mark's request, I became a homemaker. He said, I'll earn enough for us, so all you need to do is take care of the housework. At the time, I felt those words very reassuring. Then our son, Max, was born, followed by our daughter, Mia, 2 years later. After that, my life became a whirlwind of housework and childcare. This was because I didn't have parents or parents-in-law nearby to rely on. My parents and parents-in-law lived over an hour away by plane, and I had come out to New York for college. Even when my mother came to help during childbirth, it wasn't feasible for her to stay long. In hindsight, both times I should have temporarily returned to my parents' house to give birth. But back then, Mark's words about managing the home deeply rooted in me. My mother always said, come back home whenever it gets tough. Unaware of this, my younger self rejected what Mom said. Mark is now a sales manager at a mid-sized trading company. This year, as Mia entered middle school, I started part-time job. This was because Mark started saying, we should probably send Max to a private high school, don't you think? I was fine with Max attending either a public or private school, wherever he wanted to go. Where I grew up, public schools were the only option, so I wasn't familiar with the difference. But it seemed that Mark thought differently. You might not know, but in the corporate world, your alma mater can create significant divisions. To get into a good university, public schools won't cut it. Private is the way to go. I wish he had mentioned this when Max was entering middle school. It's ridiculous. If there's somewhere I really want to go, I'll find a good prep school myself. Max would say this and show me various prep schools and summer and winter courses he found online. Mia, who adores her brother, would watch over his shoulder and ask him to let her know if he found anything good. Alas, my children are better at gathering information than I am. As a parent, the least I can do is not hinder their educational paths. That's why I started part-time job, not just to rely on Mark's income but to contribute to their tuition fees. But when I brought this up, Mark simply said, I see. Then let them do as they please. Do you just want them to get into a good school? Isn't that all parents can do? That was all he answered. Indeed, he was right. Things parents can do are limited. However, every time I was told that, a feeling of being shunned built up inside me. Maybe I feel this way because I spend so little time with Mark. Ever since Mia was born, we don't make love anymore. Of course, it might be because I was always busy and tired from childcare. Mark would say to me, if it's too much, you should ask someone for help. I appreciated those words. But because of that, I ended up trying to do everything on my own. I fainted once because I was pushing myself too hard. That's when I finally broke down and called my mother. She hurried over on a 1-hour flight and helped take care of me and the 2 kids for a while. I mentioned to her about the babysitter Mark had talked about. If he says so, it's okay to leave them somewhere once in a while. You've always been like this. Trying to do everything on your own until you're overwhelmed, she said. Lying there, I felt relieved by my mother's comforting hand, but also ashamed of myself. Yes, I always wanted to accomplish what Mark asked of me on my own. And then, I would be exhausted and fall asleep at night. Before I knew it, we had become a sexless couple. By the time I wondered about us as a couple, so much time had passed that I'd lost count. Of course, sometimes I thought, why won't you help out? Spend some time with the kids. But another part of me would immediately counter that. It's because Mark is working so hard that I can always be with the kids. I'm truly grateful for that. So I feel I must do my part properly. Even if it leads to a life filled with passing each other by. Then one day, Mia started doing her own laundry, saying she'd take care of it from now on. Is that okay? She asked, even though she hadn't really helped out before. It was surprising. What's up? I mean, it's great and appreciated that you want to do your own laundry, but... Mom, you've been busy lately. No, that's not it. Mom, I don't like washing my clothes with Dad's. Come to think of it, she's always been sensitive to slight changes in smell and often made such remarks. Dad's laundry smells weird. I don't want his smell to transfer to my clothes. Mom doesn't use anything that smells, so it's fine. Please don't use anything. At the time, I thought it might be about the cologne he always used, so I didn't think much of it. And now she's in puberty. I had often heard that daughters tend to dislike their father's belongings. But the story didn't end there. Mom, I need to talk to you. One night, after I returned from my part-time job, Max was waiting for me. His grave expression told me it was no trivial matter. As we moved to the living room, taking off my coat, I asked, "What's wrong? It's rare for you to look so serious." "Yeah, it's about Dad." I was taken aback. As we sat facing each other on the living room sofa, Max said, "Mom, how much do you know?" "About what?" Max sighed softly. "Well, I see. What do you want to say?" "Mom, listen to me carefully and calm down. Mia told me that Dad is cheating on you." "What?" "Affair." I never expected to hear such a word from the mouth of 15-year-old son. "Mom, you really didn't notice, did you, from the way you're reacting? But Dad is always so busy with work. Come on, Mom, let's face it. How come we've never taken a single family vacation together, all 4 of us, no matter how much of a workaholic he is? Is my father's company really that vicious? But your father is busy as a department head right now, right? Now he is. But what about when he was a manager before he became head of the department? You know what, there are kids in my class who are in a similar family situation. Like Dad is so busy that the kids don't usually get a chance to see him. But that's why they make up for it by taking them on trips abroad during summer vacation. What about us?" Max added. I fell silent. What he mentioned was true. It's always been me, just me, taking our 2 kids to visit my parents or my parents-in-law in the countryside during the summer vacation and Christmas holidays. Since it's a plane ride away, we sometimes visit other places too. There are tourist spots worth seeing. So I thought that was enough. Maybe I was trying to think that way. I always thought Dad was irresponsible, Max said. Irresponsible is a bit of an overstatement, since it's your father who is supporting our family. That's just financial support, right? What Mia and I are saying is, whether he actually cares about Mom and us. I felt like I'd been struck by lightning. Oh, they finally say that. And then Mia started hating the smell of Dad's laundry. She realized it smelled like women's perfume. When? You know, she goes out with her friends on weekends, right? And even if she doesn't buy it, she at least picks up a bottle of perfume, right? It changes from time to time, but she's noticed that the perfume that comes out of my dad's laundry is usually the one that women wear. Max explained. Mia, sensitive to smells, had remembered them. And first let me apologize to you for something, Max added. For what? I've skipped prep school's class a few times. I followed Dad. Wait, what did you do late at night? That's why I apologized first. I thought Mia might end up doing it if I didn't. And you know what? Dad isn't working crazy late. He leaves around 7 p.m., not exactly on time, but not too late. And there was a woman with him. A woman. They went into the red light district together. I didn't have the guts to follow them any further on my own. Of course, you shouldn't. I shouted. Yeah. So, that's all I can tell you, and I'm sorry, Max said. Don't be sorry. I shook my head vehemently. It's not your fault. But what happens next is a matter for the adults. Yeah. But just remember this. Mia and I are on your side, Mom. After that conversation, Max never brought up the topic again. Honestly, I had a suspicion all along. I just didn't want to admit it. So, I pretended not to see it, believing that was the best way to protect our home. But it turned out that the children couldn't bear it any longer. This can't be right. I can't keep making my children feel terrible just because of my stubbornness. So, I took a bold step and hired a detective agency to investigate. The cost was more than I expected. But I felt it was worth investing all my part-time earnings. The result was conclusive. As I looked through the evidence sent by the agency, I felt something inside me break. What had I been maintaining this family for, and for whom? I had thought that even though he wasn't home now, there would come a time when Mark and I could enjoy our time together as a couple. That's what I thought, but... Mom? How long had I been in a daze? The documents I had been reading, having taken the day off from work. I hadn't been able to do anything until the kids came home. Is this? No. I covered the evidence with my body to hide it from Max's view. Why not? I want to know too. This isn't something for children to see. Come on, I'm already 15, you know? Still not okay. I get it. Yes, it's just not acceptable. But even so, I can't settle on what to do next. While I was pondering this, Mark came home. Startled, I hid the envelope containing the evidence in a kitchen cabinet. I'm home. When he entered the room and I saw him, I involuntarily exclaimed, huh? What is this feeling? I couldn't help but think. Surely, that's Mark. My husband. But at the same time, I think, like it's not my husband. No, it isn't even human. Then what is it? These thoughts were swirling in my mind. And now, my mind comes to this conclusion. Well, this is something that shouldn't be here now. Hey, you feeling okay? Whatever, I'll just screw around here. Since then, I've been unable to react at all when I see Mark. His figure gradually lost its outline, becoming just a vague shadow. So, much of what happened afterward, I heard from Max and Mia. Unconsciously, I started avoiding Mark's laundry in the basket. I only made meals for 3. But it didn't immediately turn into a big deal. Because Mark rarely came home early. However, one day, while the 3 of us were having dinner. I'm home. Huh? Where's dinner? Hey, kids, please say something to Mom. No way. Why do we have to tell Mom for you? Max said to it. You know what, we don't need Dad in this house. Then Mia took out her phone and started making a call. Hey, Grandma, it's Mia. He's here, come over quickly. Why is Mia calling my mom? Voices saying stop it, and it's too late echoed. I just watched the scene as if it were happening to someone else. About 10 minutes later, my parents rushed in with another man. Mia indeed called her grandmother, my mother. But how did they arrive so quickly? What's going on? Mom. What happened? Oh, Sarah. You've gotten so thin. My mother hugged me. My father, George, approached the kids, putting his arms around their shoulders and patting them. Grandpa. Okay, you've done well. We'll take care of it from here, so go to your rooms. No. I want to say it directly to Dad, who drove Mom into the corner. Drove me into the corner? Mom, do you know what state you're in right now? We called Grandma and Grandpa because Mom broke down. Broke down? What do you mean by that? You know, Dad. Mom doesn't think of you as Dad anymore. Huh? What are you talking about, Max? Sarah. My dad gently asked me. How many servings did you make for dinner today? What are you talking about? There are 3 of us, so I made 3 servings. Oh, didn't you eat yet, Dad? I need to make something for you right away. My mother held me back as I started to get up. No, Sarah, that's not it. We've already eaten, so don't worry about us. We're just here to talk to him. Him? I looked in the direction my mother indicated. A vague, gray shadow was swaying. The kids sent this to us. What? Dad fluttered an unfamiliar envelope in front of me. A detective agency. Oh, you've forgotten about that too. My mother grieved. But I couldn't understand why she looked so close to tears. That over there is your husband, Mark. The shadow stopped moving, saying, uh-huh. What do you mean, Sarah? The shadow was saying something to me. But the words entered my ears without making any sense in my mind. That's what I've been saying, it's your fault Mom broke down, she can't even recognize you anymore. Huh? Stop joking around. Sarah, you know who I am, right? I felt a sudden grip on my collar from the shadow. But it still felt like the voice was coming from far away, and I couldn't understand what was being said. Stop it, Dad. Look into Mom's eyes. Let go of Sarah, Mark. My dad pulled me away from the shadow. And then my parents started bombarding the shadow with words. Mom, you might not understand what I'm saying right now. Max said, holding my shoulders and looking me in the eye. We noticed something was wrong with you, so we contacted Grandma and Grandpa. Something wrong with me? Yes. You couldn't bear Dad's affair, and now you can't even see him. That's not true, Mark has already passed away, hasn't he? Huh? A baffled voice came from the shadow. Seeing my expression then, Max looked like he was about to cry. You understand now, Dad? That's what's going on. The shadow slowly sank into the ground. During this time, Mia had set up a tablet and seemed to be connecting to someone. Grandpa, can you see me? Mia, are you ready over there? That voice belonged to my father-in-law, Daniel. Grandpa, it's ready. Hi Daniel, it's been quite a while. Hi George. I was hoping to head over there and meet you properly, but unfortunately, my wife is not feeling well. I understand. Your wife was very attached to Mark. She was too much into her son. Hey, Mark. A voice loud enough to crackle through the tablet echoed. What, Dad? What's going on? What do you mean what's going on? We've received a copy of the evidence of your affair. It must have been a shock to Sarah. Dad, you too believe that I... Shut up. How many years has it been since you visited us during the summer or holidays? The only reason we didn't blame you is that Sarah always covered for you. I never asked her to do that. Still have more to say? Your mother couldn't help but complain to Sarah about you not visiting us, even though she knew she shouldn't. And this is the reason you couldn't come? Should I read out the documents? Daniel, may we handle this over here? Sure. I will be sure to keep a close eye on my son after he hears this. Then, I'll say it. You've been in a conspicuously close relationship with your coworker Ashley for 10 years, even causing rumors at work. You kept telling Sarah to stay home, which prevented her from meeting her old colleagues, while you freely indulged in your affair. You two even went on overseas trips without visiting us for 10 years. And Ashley believes you'll marry her, huh? She was 25 when you started. And now she's 35. She's also to blame, but she's willing to pay alimony in case of divorce. And what about you? You wasted the best 10 years of her life for marriage? Huh, we hadn't heard that part, but it seems things have gone that far. Hey, Mark. I felt the shadow quiver. Joseph, the attorney that George arranged for Sarah, has started the process and the court papers are already in hand. Fill them out and sign them as soon as possible. And you and Ashley will pay Sarah alimony for pushing to this point. I won't let you get away with a penny. But... Dad, please, I'm begging you, help me. No way. Do you know, Mark, when we saw the documents, your mother collapsed and has been hospitalized since then. Whose fault do you think that is? Mom's in the hospital? I'd like to punch you myself for continuing your affair for 10 years. How dare you stand before me and say such things? Every day in the hospital bed, your mother cries, thinking her upbringing was wrong. But, Dad, you're my parent, you should help me, right? At an age when people start thinking about their parents' care, you're still so naive? Don't worry, we won't need your care. We're cutting ties with you. No way. Well, it's a good thing you're an only child. The little inheritance we intended to leave you will go to Max and Mia instead. Don't say that, please help me. Enough. I'm hanging up. George, we leave the rest to you. Ashley might be at fault, but it seems she was mostly deceived by him. But we'll leave that to your discretion. Thank you, we'll take care of it thoroughly. Don't worry, we won't cause any physical harm. The tablet's video and audio cut off. Let's discuss the divorce then. It seems the man who came with them was the lawyer Joseph. He stepped forward smoothly. Sarah, are you willing to divorce? Divorce? But, we're a family of 3. Yes. But we need your signature here to formalize it. Right. Even if the husband is dead, we still need to file the paperwork, don't we? Dead. Yes, this is really what I found out later when I got my own mind straight. I really thought so at the time. Mark was dead, and he was no longer here. Since when? As days passed, in my mind, Mark's affair and his frequent absences had been replaced with the notion that he was dead. That's why, even when Mark was supposedly in front of me, I couldn't perceive him as a living person, just a vague shadow. Of course, this became clear after counseling later on. So, even if there were contradictions in my current life, I couldn't notice them. All I thought about was wanting to protect the life with my 2 children. That was all. Not inviting Ashley to the scene was a decision made after discussions between my parents and my parents-in-law. They probably thought it was too much for the children to meet their father's mistress in person. Especially Mia, who was firmly against it. So, the matter was left entirely in Joseph's hands. Ashley, having made up her mind, apologized respectfully. I wasn't without doubts. Even if he kept saying we'd marry someday, 10 years was just too long. Still, I clung to that sliver of hope. And regarding my deteriorated condition, Mark always told me his wife was cold to him, but I never imagined something like this. Apparently, Mark always portrayed me as a cold woman who excluded him from the family. My sympathy for him turned into love, but now I see. I was just being deceived by him. Her voice was trembling with anger at that moment. Joseph, I'll pay the alimony to his wife properly. And I have a request. I want to sue him for marriage fraud. Is that possible? Do you have evidence? I recorded his words just in case a time like this would come. And the matter of marrying him after he divorced? This incident has completely opened my eyes. I'm breaking up with him. She was known as an expert in the office, a person with solid skills. The evidence was well organized and neatly arranged. Her love turned into unbearable hatred towards him. In the end, Mark turned even Ashley he thought was on his side against him. Afterward, both of them ended up leaving the company. However, the circumstances seem to have been somewhat different. Their relationship had been somewhat known within the company. It simply wasn't out in the open. That's why Ashley revealing that she was suing Mark over this matter was significant. Why would you do something like that? I've been waiting all this time, thinking you were stuck in a cold marriage, unable to divorce. What now? We went summer vacation trips together, right? It was you who came crying to me, saying your wife told you not to come. I was shocked when I heard about your wife's condition. Ashley resigned voluntarily after making everything clear to those around her. She paid the alimony to me in one lump sum, with a note of apology attached. As a result, Mark also ended up leaving the company. The company didn't need an employee who brought legal trouble. The alimony for me and the child support for the kids were initially covered by his parents. The plan was to later recoup the costs from Mark's personal savings, sale of his belongings, and then consistently from his monthly income. Considering his age and former managerial position, it's questionable what kind of job he can find now. But that's not for me to worry about. Immediately following the day I confronted Mark, I was admitted to the hospital for recuperation. Half of the reason was for medical tests, and the other half was for counseling. Since it was determined that, apart from issues related to Mark, there were no impediments to my daily life, I moved in with my kids to my parents' home. I'm sorry for making you change schools at such a time. It's okay. It's just the right time for high school entrance exams anyway, we'd have to part with everyone regardless. I'm a bit sad to be away from my friends, but it's much better than living with that man. Children are truly precious to me. I'm still continuing counseling. Not having the cause of the trouble around makes a big difference. Once I get a bit better, I plan to start working seriously. For the sake of these kids, and for myself as well. Is dinner ready yet? As I was preparing dinner, I heard my husband John's voice. Okay, I'm on it. John seemed to be relaxing in the living room, watching TV. Hey, bring me some tea? Sure thing. So, upon his request, I turned off the stove and made some tea. It's a scene that hasn't changed over the years. But, I've started to question this kind of life. My name is Carol. I'm 50 years old, in my 27th year of marriage. John is 4 years older than me, a former boss at work. At his request, I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker when we got married. As an office clerk, I was used to being assigned all miscellaneous tasks. So John, my former boss, seemed to take it for granted that he would make me do things at home. We have a son and a daughter. Our son Alex works for an IT company, and our daughter Emily has taken a job with a food company. Although they live close by, both have moved out, and with the parenting phase winding down, I've started to think about doing something new. Encouraged by Emily, I started attending cooking classes. However, I felt awkward asking John to pay for them, which led me to take a part-time job as an office clerk at a supermarket. Despite the gap in my employment and the many changes, I found it exciting to take on new challenges. Thanks to Alex, who had always been interested in computers and taught me how to use them, I was able to handle the computer requirements of modern office work. I'm grateful to Alex. Even though it was part-time, earning my own money after such a long time made me feel validated as an individual. I used that money to pay for the cooking classes. Having lived in a closed-off world, I suddenly found my social circle expanding. I enjoyed improving my cooking skills, but interacting with people of various ages was especially delightful to me. I'm going to take a shower now. After dinner, as I was doing the dishes, John called out from the living room. It's ready for you. Without saying anything, John got up and headed to the bathroom. I am the one who sets up the bathroom and prepares John's change of clothes. It wasn't necessarily painful, but being taken for granted like that did make me feel sad. Even when I was sick, John wouldn't do anything. He would just ask about his meals and clothes. Usually, the kids would take care of me and scold John, but it never seemed to affect him. Even though this lifestyle has continued for years, starting part-time work began to change my mindset. When I told John that I wanted to take a cooking class, he made it a condition that I would not neglect my chores. I didn't have a particular complaint about that. However, after just one session, he commented, "Your cooking hasn't improved at all." If one session could make that much difference, it would be a miracle. Then I figured out John probably didn't like it when I start something. I somehow understood that he wanted to look down on me as a housewife who couldn't do anything. Realizing that, I started to wonder if I could continue to live with John, with whom my only interactions are about meals, baths, and tea. Now that the kids have moved out, it's just John and me in this house. Despite there being fewer people, it strangely feels more suffocating. Hey. While I was in the kitchen, John called out to me. It's been decades since he last called me by my name. When I looked up, John was pointing to a corner of the room. The cleaning isn't up to par. If you're going to neglect your duties because you're too busy playing around, I don't mind if you get out. John has often said that it was fine for me to get out, a sentiment he's expressed for years. Back when I was busy raising our children and not working, the thought of getting out never crossed my mind. But now, things are different. For the first time, I spoke up in response. The vacuum cleaner is right there. If it bothers you, why don't you clean it up yourself? Then, John suddenly started to get angry. What are you talking to the head of a household when you're just my wife? Talk is over. Saying that, he left the living room. I sighed. After a while, I heard the sound of the front door opening, so it seemed he went out. Wife or head of the household, too old-fashioned if I think about it. He probably never expected me to talk back. After some time, John came back. Then he suddenly thrust me a few pieces of paper he had in his hand. If I file this with the court, you're getting out of here. John gave me divorce petition forms. And what's more, his part was already filled out meticulously. A divorce just because I talked back once? But part of me thought, if that's what he wants, maybe that's for the best. Still, wanting to cool down, I said, please let me think about it, took those papers, and retreated to the bedroom where John wasn't. Before I knew it, it was already evening as I pondered what to do. As I was considering just going to bed for the night, I heard John's voice, hey, dinner is not ready yet? What does it mean to demand that the person you are divorcing prepare dinner for you? John went out of his way to open the bedroom door to check on me. I sighed. If we get divorced, you won't be able to have dinner, will you? Then John said, yeah, I guess it's inconvenient without you around. Since I'm letting you live here, hurry up and prepare dinner. Despite his words irking me, I knew if I left it be, he'd just keep asking about dinner. So I warmed up some prepared dishes in the microwave and served them to John. The next day, John returned home in an unusually good mood. As I took his bag and jacket, I noticed a smell I wasn't familiar with. Perhaps it was a woman's perfume. But I chose not to pursue it. If this was an affair, I decided to gather evidence and then consider divorce. I had never thought to investigate John before, even though there had been suspicious signs. Then, I quickly found evidence of his affair in emails and photos. A month later, things took a dramatic turn. As I returned from my cooking class, the house phone rang incessantly. It was the police, saying John had been in an accident and was taken to the hospital. He was supposed to be at work today, but the location of the accident was in a completely different direction. Despite suspecting a scam, I hurried to the hospital as instructed. Just to be safe, I also contacted Alex and Emily, and they agreed to come as well. When we arrived at the hospital and saw him, it was indeed John. According to the police, a woman in the passenger seat had died in the accident. It wasn't a scam, but hearing from the police that there was a woman with him made me indifferent about John's condition. Wasn't he supposed to be at work? How come he was in that place, and with another woman? I just nodded to Emily's words. The kids quickly grasped that John had been having an affair. Either way, with John unconscious, there was nothing to be done. There was a possibility he might never regain consciousness, and even if he did, he might be suffering from paralysis from the waist down. Other than that, we would have to wait and see when he woke up. John woke up 3 days later. When I received the call and went to the hospital, my in-laws were there. I had informed John's parents when he was taken to the hospital. However, not feeling like waiting for them, I hadn't met with John's parents, who took a while to arrive at the hospital. The in-laws seemed to have arrived after we left. While John was unconscious, the in-laws stayed by his side. As soon as she saw me, my mother-in-law, Lisa, started yelling. Carol. Where have you been? It seemed like she hadn't liked me since I married John. We rarely see each other since we live far apart, but she always complains whenever we meet. Well, this time, I expected to be scolded for being a wife who left her unconscious husband behind. You're a terrible wife for not being by his side while your husband was fighting for his life. My father-in-law, George, joined in scolding me. I couldn't help but say, I guess so. I agree. Normally, a wife would stay by her husband's side in such a situation. But I had given up that role. As the in-laws stared at me with wide eyes, John spoke up. It seems I'll be hospitalized for a while, so I'll need you to prepare my clothes and towels. You can see me at a fixed time every day. He said it as if it were the most natural thing in the world. As I stayed silent, pondering where to start, John said, a wife should serve her husband for life, right? Then, Lisa chimed in. Poor thing, being paralyzed. From now on, Carol has to take care of him devotedly. John nodded and said, that's right. You're my wife, so it's only to be expected. Hearing that, I said with a serious face. What are you talking about? It's impossible because we're strangers now. What? John and the in-laws looked at me. That's because I'm not your wife anymore. Besides, you have quite the nerve, cheating and getting caught in an accident. You told me you were working, but in reality, you took a day off for a trip with your mistress? Unbelievable. I wasn't sure how much the in-laws knew, but they must have noticed the situation now that I explained it. Then, George said something outrageous. What's the big deal about 1 or 2 affairs? Yeah, having such an attractive husband should make you proud. It was Lisa who made the off-target remark. Just then, the door to the hospital room swung open. Grandma and Grandpa, what you're saying is awful. It was Emily who said that. Alex was behind her. It seemed they had heard everything. Now all the players were here. I began to tell everything. Your affair started 3 years ago with the wife of a company executive, I heard. You hit it off with her when you visited their house to congratulate him on his promotion to executive. How dare you make a move on the wife of an executive? The woman who died in the accident was John's mistress. After being questioned by the police and also in communication with the woman's husband, I learned specific information. John's face visibly paled. Don't you think it's strange to have a car accident with his mistress in the car and not find out anything? I've been aware of it for a long time, though, so I have all the evidence I need. Well, I'm off to discuss the future with my lawyer, so I'll leave now. John, now visibly pale, started to panic. Wait, what do you mean by lawyer? Exactly what it sounds like. I'll be claiming compensation for the affair and your emotional abuse. What am I supposed to do now? John always worried only about himself. I stopped worrying about John. For too long, I've been treated like a maid by John, whose only concerns were meals, baths, and tea. After the accident during his affair, I had finally had enough. Fortunately, I had already received the divorce petition forms filled out by John. So, without hesitation, I headed to the court and submitted them. That is why we are in divorce proceedings, and I will not do anything to take care of you in the future. Declaring this, Alex and Emily nodded in agreement. I'm glad you've decided to divorce Dad, said Alex. With that, the conversation ended. As I was about to leave the hospital room, leaving John looking pale, Lisa hurriedly blocked my way. There's no way such a divorce will be approved. You are to take care of him for life. Do you understand? Lisa yelled, so I involuntarily responded with a serious face, no, I don't. Then what is he supposed to do? He can't even walk. What if he needs to take a bath or use the toilet? Who is going to take care of him? You have no brains except to take care of him. So don't whine and just do it. I kept a straight face and said, why don't you do all of that? And she fell silent, shaking her head. So I said, please stop trying to push onto me the things you don't want to do. Then I added, good luck taking care of your son with your husband. George, who had been acting as if he was out of the loop, looked bewildered. The rest is none of my concern. As you said, I'll be leaving that house. I left the hospital room with my children. I hardly ever talked back before, but today I was able to say what I wanted. Feeling refreshed, I returned home to prepare for moving. Let's live together, Emily suggested, so I moved in with her. I returned to my part-time job after a break and resumed attending cooking classes. Wherever I went, people said, Carol, you seem brighter than before. It makes sense since I was acting like an unpaid maid before, it's natural to become somber. Now, with a broader outlook and more friends, I live every day joyfully. As promised, I sued John for damages due to his affair and emotional abuse, and got a fair share of the property. Since the affair was discovered by the executive, John's mistress's husband, he also sued for compensation. John, now paralyzed from the waist down, was planning to continue working at the company he had been with. But the affair with the executive's wife and the accident made it uncomfortable for him, so he chose to resign. "Carol, please come back." John's desperate call came through. Without me saying anything, John started to talk. "Mom and Dad have been pushing my care onto each other, and Mom left yesterday. We're over." He said this in a pitiful voice, so I replied, "Do you really think I would come back to that? I did marry you, but the feeling of wanting to serve you for life has long been gone. You managed to live just by saying meals, baths, tea. Maybe things would have been different if you had at least said thank you, but you took it for granted. You might think you can't do anything now because you're disabled, but you've always been someone who couldn't do anything by yourself." John was speechless over the phone. Also, being called by my name for the first time in decades doesn't make me happy at all. I've received plenty from the property division and compensation, so I have no need for you anymore. If you keep contacting me persistently, I'll consult the police. He might have really thought I would come back, but I'm already independent. Since my part-time job salary wasn't enough, I was looking for something new when I learned that my cooking class instructor was looking for a partner. The instructor, being elderly, didn't understand computers, and the class recruitment was done on paper, with handwritten student management. I immediately volunteered to help, using the internet to recruit students and post about the cooking class. All thanks to Alex teaching me about computers. Then, Alex contacted me. Dad called the other day, but I told him I can't trust him, won't help him, nor lend him money. Oh, and I'm not inviting Dad to the wedding. Just so you know. Alex, who had grown up before I knew it, is getting married in 2 months. He sometimes comes to me, hoping not to become like his father, asking to learn cooking. Emily watches him with a smirk, saying, "Big brother, you're here again? We've always been like this." Our family gatherings no longer include John. It seems John was only there to order me around, causing me trouble. Without John, I've been able to lead a fulfilling life, and I am content. My name is Sophie. I divorced my husband 10 years ago, and now it's just my daughter Lily and me. Lily is a senior in high school. She's set to graduate this year and has already been accepted to college. Lily assured me, "I'll definitely get a scholarship, so don't worry about money." Indeed, attending college on my salary alone would be tough. From the start, Lily was determined to get into college with it. She led a perfect high school life, ranking first in her class, serving as the student body president, and even competing in national competitions in her club activities. It came on the back of these achievements. Of course, she got a full tuition waiver. It was a scholarship that doesn't need to be repaid. It's an excellent opportunity for Lily. It will likely fast-track her dream of becoming a lawyer. This is truly a blessing for me. Lily and I have had our struggles, especially since the divorce when she was in elementary school. I've always thought I wasn't the best mom, but I've been comforted by Lily's kindness. Had I not chosen such a man to be my husband, perhaps we wouldn't have had to endure so much. It all began 20 years ago. I married a man named David. David's family home was a grand mansion in the countryside. I was overwhelmed by the grand gates when I was greeted by my father-in-law, Henry. Henry seemed like a stern, traditional man fitting for such a house. I later found out he had intentionally put on a stern demeanor to maintain dignity. I'll never forget how he later apologized with a kind smile, saying, "I'm sorry for scaring you back then." However, the problem was my mother-in-law, Olivia. David had warned me, "My mom really adores me. She might think you're stealing me away from her and dislike you for it." Indeed, Olivia was overly fond of David. When we first met and I introduced myself, Olivia's first words were, "Sophie, isn't your makeup a bit too heavy? And the length of your skirt? Such things are for people with slimmer legs." I was wearing a knee-length dress that day, which I thought was a bit bold. My makeup was a little heavier than usual. I had also done my nails. It was only natural to make an effort for my first meeting with my husband's parents. But it seems Olivia didn't take it well. Although Henry defended me, David nodded along with Olivia's words. David said Olivia adored him, but I began to wonder if he too couldn't distance himself from her. From that moment, I had my suspicions. We didn't stay long that day, but Olivia's attitude was disheartening. She repeatedly said, "What was David thinking, choosing such an ordinary woman to marry? And if you're bringing a gift, at least bring something nicer. Not something you can find anywhere." I was criticized several times like this. For the record, the gift was a popular confection from my hometown. The soufflé, with its cloud-like, fluffy texture, was irresistible to women. Despite bringing such a top-notch dessert, for her to disparage it as something you can find anywhere was shocking. Could it be that, despite its deliciousness, she deliberately made such remarks just to belittle me? Regardless, I felt I couldn't get along with Olivia. But David lightly said, "It'll be fine, we hardly ever have to see each other after we're married." True, unless we lived together, we wouldn't see each other daily. His words somewhat reassured me. That carefree attitude, however, turned my life upside down. David and I started dating 3 years ago. We decided to get married. He proposed on the day of the local famous summer festival. As the fireworks reached their grand finale, David knelt and took out a ring. "Please marry me. I will protect you from any hardship," he proposed. He proposed with those words. I accepted the ring, saying, "Yes. I'd be delighted." Months later, we had our wedding. I was worried that Olivia would approve of the marriage, but with Henry's persuasion, she somehow consented. "Just so you know, if you make David unhappy, I will never forgive you. Be prepared for a divorce if anything happens," she warned me. Despite her words, at that moment, I was too happy about marrying David to take Olivia seriously. Our married life was far from ideal. "I will protect you from any hardship." If he truly meant that, our marriage wouldn't have ended up like this, nor would we have gotten divorced. Initially, David told me, "Once we're married, I want you to quit your job and devote yourself to our home. We'll probably have kids soon, and I want you to raise them properly as a full-time homemaker." But once I quit, he changed his tune. "Being a homemaker is just like being unemployed. You laze around all day. Really, not working even though we don't have kids, what a luxury," he would say sarcastically. Of course, I wasn't just lazing around. I woke up at 5 a.m. to prepare breakfast as per David's request. Frustrated at being treated like a NEET, I mentioned wanting to start a part-time job, but David reacted aggressively again. "Are you planning to find a lover at your part-time job?" Confused, I wondered what I was supposed to do. Eventually, I discovered I was pregnant and gave birth to our daughter without returning to work. David was overjoyed, but Olivia reacted differently. I'll never forget Olivia's words when she first visited the hospital room after my daughter was born. "A girl? What about the heir for our family? Useless. David's brother will just have to have a son who can be the heir," she concluded. At that moment, I felt oddly calm. I was fine with cutting ties if it came to that. I never planned to make my child an heir, and it didn't matter to me who the heir was. If David's nephew wanted to take on that role, I was all for it. However, things didn't go as smoothly as I had hoped. About half a year after my daughter was born, a scandal erupted. Incredibly, Olivia was caught having an affair, and Henry was furious, declaring, "I'm getting a divorce." When I first heard that story, I thought it must be some kind of mistake. Because Olivia and Henry were known as a model couple in the neighborhood, so close in their relationship. It was hard to believe that such a couple could ever divorce. Since their home was a 2-hour drive away, I didn't have many chances to visit and didn't know the details. But it turned out that Olivia's affair was real, and Henry ultimately decided on divorce. Sophie. One day, Olivia came to our house, tears streaming down her face. I was bewildered by the sight of her, more haggard than I had ever seen her before. However, her request to move in with us was both shocking and a massive inconvenience. My daughter was still young, and our house was far from spacious. Considering we were discussing having a second child, Olivia's presence would complicate matters even further. Yet, my husband allowed her to move in. My husband, doted upon by her, always sided with Olivia over Henry. He always believed Olivia was right. I pleaded with David, living together would be difficult. But faced with, if you don't like it, we can get a divorce, I reluctantly had to accept. Thus began our cohabitation with Olivia. But far from helping with Lily, Olivia would make demands even when I was busy taking care of her. Not just that. She left all the household chores to me and complained about the menu. Far from easing my burden, it only grew. Despite the agreement being until she found somewhere to live, Olivia showed no signs of looking. Still, not wanting a divorce, I endured. I didn't want to experience the sorrow of being a single mother. As the days passed, I grew numb to Olivia's words, able to ignore them. There's dust left here. Sure. My dinner isn't ready yet. Sure. Responding nonchalantly would enrage Olivia, but I brushed it off with a sure. Years passed without Olivia moving out, and Lily advanced to elementary school. Displeased with Lily's demure nature compared to her peers, Olivia began to berate her. I hate boring and quiet girls like you. Just like your mother. If you don't want to be hated by me, try to be more cheerful. I've reached my limit. I seriously began to consider divorce. David, burdened with important tasks at work, had been almost absent from home for months and said nothing to Olivia. Not that he would have taken my side over Olivia's anyway. Then, when Lily was 8, the moment came. David's affair was exposed. The other woman was his female boss. Unable to bear it any longer, I decided to divorce immediately. Thinking about life after divorce, I resolved to find a job. I reached out to former bosses and colleagues I had before getting married. Fortunately, a colleague who had started his own business said, "I can hire you as an office worker." Relieved, I believed I could manage life with Lily. The day I secured the job, I confronted David with the divorce papers. David, furious, and Olivia together berated me. Do you think you, a NEET, can survive a divorce? You won't even be able to send your daughter to school. It's because the wife isn't reliable that the husband strays, right? It's all your fault. I wanted to retort to their unreasonable accusations, but I was at a loss for words. Feeling pathetic as they continued their tirade, Lily woke up. Mom. What's happening? She rushed over to me, looking up with concern. That's right. From now on, I need to protect this child. I shouldn't let myself be demeaned. With that thought, I found strength. I won't be manipulated by you two any longer. I'm getting a divorce. With that, I packed our things and Lily into the car and left the house. Afterwards, I hired a lawyer, sought child support, and the divorce was finalized. However, the relief was short-lived as the only time David paid the child support was just the first time. Despite my attempts to get him to pay, it was always, "Please wait until next month, I'll definitely pay." My weakness is taking people at their word and waiting. Upon investigation, I found that 3/4 of single mothers don't receive child support, a significant social issue. How ignorant I was not to be aware of societal issues until I found myself in such a situation. Between work and Lily's schooling, life was a constant struggle. Lily was mocked by her classmates for coming from a single-parent home, and I faced gossip from other mothers. A decade passed like this. At the summer festival, when Lily was in her senior year of high school, I unexpectedly ran into David and Olivia. I was at a loss for words at the sudden encounter, but they seemed unfazed. Wondering how they found me, I managed to keep my composure and asked, "What do you want?" Then, with a serious expression, David said, "I only have 6 months to live. I don't have much time left. That's why I want to see my daughter one last time. Please, let me see her." I was shocked and unsure how to react. But, true to my nature, I thought, maybe it's okay to let them meet just once. However, I wasn't sure how Lily would feel. I told them, "I'll ask my daughter," and called Lily. To my surprise, Lily agreed easily, saying, "Okay, I'll come now." When I told them, "All right, I'll let her meet you," their faces lit up with joy. I told David, "Wait at that place. I thought he would understand what I meant by that. It was where David had proposed to me. Nodding, David took Olivia and turned away. Seizing the opportunity, I decided to make a call. A feeling of something's not right flashed through my mind. An hour later, Lily and I met up and then headed to that place. As the fireworks began, memories of the day David proposed flooded back. We faced them again. But their expressions had changed drastically. Thought we could easily fool you. How could someone as healthy as me have only 6 months to live, right, Mom? Exactly. You're as gullible as ever. That's why single mothers are hopeless. They began laughing. But I remained calm. I never took David's 6 months to live claim seriously. Unfazed by my composure, David and Olivia began explaining why they summoned me and my daughter. Apparently, David's nephew, who was supposed to inherit the family, had rejected the role. Now, they were scheming to groom my daughter as the heir. Being the heir guarantees a secure future. No need to worry about finding a job. We'll even arrange a suitable marriage partner for you. Someone ordinary like you wouldn't find a decent match anyway. Olivia said condescendingly. David added, and Mom is getting old. In a few years, she'll need care. Having a daughter around would save us those expenses, don't you think? I raised my voice in disbelief at their ridiculous proposal. What? You want Lily to take care of your mother? I won't let her, whom I've raised with so much care, do such a thing. Don't you dare involve her in your lives again. Hearing this, they seemed to give up on persuading us and tried to take Lily by force. But just then, a shout louder than the fireworks exploded nearby. David and Olivia were startled and turned around, only to find Henry there. What? How did you? Olivia was visibly flustered. Indeed, the person I had called earlier was Henry. Your granddaughter is in trouble. Please help, I had said to him. With just that, Henry grasped the situation. I'm on my way. Where are you? After I gave him the details, Henry arrived swiftly. At that moment, we heard someone cry out, ouch. David was on the ground, clutching his arm. It seemed Lily had bitten him to escape. After a moment, Henry furiously scolded David and Olivia. David. You're dead to me. Henry's anger didn't subside easily. Later, Henry apologized, saying, I'm sorry for the trouble my family has caused you. Lily thanked him with a warm smile, I'm glad you helped us. Let's keep in touch. Half a year passed, and Lily graduated from high school safely. She'll be leaving for college in the spring, marking our first separation. It's going to be hard. Expressing my worries, Henry suggested, there's a vacant house near mine. Why don't you and Lily live there? It's close to her college. Lily happily agreed when I discussed it with her. It seems she's become quite fond of her grandfather since that day. We moved in time for Lily's college start. Though Henry is over 60, he sometimes takes us on day trips by car. Lily happily shares her college experiences, and it's clear Henry enjoys the increased time with his granddaughter. What happened to David and Olivia after that, neither Henry nor I know, nor do we want to. I'm determined to protect my daughter and our happiness from any hardship.